one of the most dangerous and ruthless mafias in the history of mankind. If there is one thing known about Albanians all over the world, it's never mess with the Albanians. And we're not talking about the ones in their homeland. Everywhere, Europe, the Middle East, UK, America, and most importantly, New York. How is the life of an Albanian Mafia member? What rules do they have to follow? What has the Albanian Mafia done to be feared like this? So many questions, and we will answer all of them in today's video. So, without further ado, let's get started. You might have seen the movie Taken or the famous show Gangs of London, and how can we forget about the world-famous game Grand Theft Auto? All of these have one thing in common: links to the Albanian Mafia. Each one of them describes how deadly and merciless they are. Just like the Cosa Nostra and the Sicilian Mafia, the Albanian Mafia is extremely strict about certain things, like loyalty and faith. But if there's one thing about the Albanian Mafia that separates it from the rest, is the fact that they have continuously evolved in the last 80 years. This evolution is one of the biggest reasons why the Albanian Mafia has been undefeatable. Even the FBI is open about it, and due to its growing power, it's not limited to truly ethnic Albanians anymore. Besides Albanians, it consists of Macedonians, Serbians, and Greeks are also functional in these mafias and play extremely vital roles. However, there is no controlling body that sets rules or includes or excludes members. But that doesn't mean the members lack discipline or snitch on their fellows. Despite being insanely widespread, the Albanian Mafia is literally impossible to infiltrate. Even the FBI has given up the effort to gain intel on the Albanian Mafia by trying to infiltrate it. The answer to it is very simple. Each member is extremely loyal and secretive. And why is that? What obligates them to be this way? Well, it might sound old-fashioned Hollywood to you, but the Mafia thrives on moral values like honesty, trust, faith, and loyalty. Surprisingly, the world of crime depends entirely on ethics. In fact, there is an extremely commonly used word among the Albanians called besa, and it means faith. If one Albanian Mafia member gives another one his besa, it means that both of them are bounded by loyalty and faith. So, who is running the Albanian Mafia? No one. It's just huge criminal families that have connections with the Albanians and Balkans, and they're not responsible for a specific crime. Whether it's trafficking, prostitution, gang wars, racketeering, or drugs, the Albanian Mafia has damaged every subcontinent and has been quite near to what we would assume is untouchable. But how is the life of an Albanian gangster? For that, let's take a look at the city of dreams, New York. You might be surprised, but besides an insane amount of Hollywood stars, New York is also considered the hub of the Albanian Mafia. And there was a time when it was ruled by Ismail Lika. Belonging to a Kosovar Albanian mob, Lika was one of the untouchables, and every time the King of New York was mentioned, no politician, no Hollywood hero came to mind. It was always the Albanian drug lord whose image filled minds with fear. The mobster single-handedly ruined thousands of lives, and there was no stopping him. Supplying $100 million worth of Turkish dope was a regular Tuesday chore for him. He had several articles and books written about him and was a regular part of the news bulletin every night. The famous book Contract Killer, written by William Hoffman, described the Albanian mobster as a symbol of terror and a very important person in the world of international crime. But were his crimes limited to prostitution, trafficking, drug smuggling, and such? Nope, the mobster was more than willing to cause earthquakes in the world of politics as well. You might be wondering, how can he do that? By being a politician? By standing for mayor? No. Out of the several people that were on his hit list and at risk of being assassinated any time due to his extremely finely trained snipers was the 40th President of the United States, Ronald Reagan. Besides Reagan, other big names that have bothered the Albanian mobster and were on his hit list include John Gotti, Paul Castellano, and others. One unexplainable thing about the Albanian drug lord was his severe hatred for the Italians, and he made sure that everyone was aware and dead terrified of it. But was he alone in all of his crimes? Can only one man handle a city as big as New York? Ismail Lika worked alone till 1980, and after that, he shook hands with another big name in the drug world. Zef Mustafa. And who was that? Moved to the United States as a child with his parents to escape and survive the merciless regime of the Albanian communist Enver Hoxha, Mustafa, just like a huge number of other gangsters, had a sad and traumatizing start to his life. After losing his parents at a very young age and being adopted by a local family, Mustafa's first step toward the world of crime was taken in 1986 when he was accused of killing a man by beating him to death. The weapon used during the murder will make you understand just how bloodthirsty and merciless this crime lord was. Zef had no guns, knives, or daggers with him when he committed the first murder of his life. All he had was a baseball bat, and he was a beast with it. So one thing was for sure, if Zef hated someone, he dedicated his everything towards destroying them. And one of the biggest subjects of his hatred was the Albanian communist Hoxha, the reason why his family had to leave their homeland and settle in the United States. So, Zef teamed up with 4 more Albanian mobsters that were exiled from their country for the same reason and had similar feelings towards the communist regime in their homeland. Associated with the Gambino crime family, Zef couldn't execute his plan of assassinating Hoxha and shot himself in 1982. Now, that changed stuff for the people that had been working with and for him. For example, Lika, the king of New York, had been a partner of Zef since 1980, but after he died, he had to switch up his ways again. Once again, he was trafficking drugs, and once again, there was no one to stop him. Smuggling hundreds and thousands of tons of heroin daily from countries like Afghanistan and Turkey and selling them on the streets of America was his way of living. But everything changed in 1985 when he got arrested and was sentenced to life in prison without parole. But did that undo the damage that Lika had done to the United States? Could arresting him change the fact that he had smuggled drugs worth $125 million from the Balkans, Yugoslavia, and Turkey into the streets of New York, Detroit, California, Texas, and Illinois? As we mentioned earlier, the word "besa" had an insane amount of importance among the Albanians. Faith was all they cared about. Oath was everything to them. At the end of the day, besa was everything that the Albanian Mafia thrived on. So even after Lika got arrested and was presented in court for trial, his family was there with him. His members in the Mafia stood in the audience for him. They tried everything in their power to prevent their boss from being sentenced to jail. From using their connections with the higher-ups to sending death threats to everyone, the Mafia was desperate to keep Lika out of prison. Even Lika's father sent death threats to Rudolph William Louis Giuliani. Giuliani was a very important figure in the Lika drug bust case. He was such an important figure that the 5 families, which ran the biggest drug cartels in the world, went ahead and voted on whether he should be assassinated or not. During his time as the mayor of New York, Giuliani claimed that the Sicilian Mafia had offered $800,000 for his assassination. But were the death threats sent by Lika's father the only hardship faced by Giuliani during the trial? No, a contract worth $400,000 was issued to the prosecutors of Giuliani by Lika. Now let's move on to another big name in the Albanian Mafia. Founder of one of the biggest Albanian criminal organizations, the Rodash organization was led by another deadly and feared name, Alex Rudash. Taking his first few steps in the world of crime with the help of the notorious Gambino family, Alex began to spread his wings and socialize with other big names in the world of Albanian Mafia by the 1990s. One of the reasons why the Albanian Mafia is so strong is because they continuously evolved and became widespread, all the while staying extremely secretive and loyal. As we mentioned earlier, the only true ethnic Albanians weren't a part of the Albanian Mafia. Others like the Cosa Nostra members were also included because of him, and they all started gambling in Westchester country. Of course, after being met with success, Alex wanted more. So in 2001, Alex and a few gang members attacked a Greek social club, which was in fact a gambling racket run by another big mafia family. Despite the fact that the men were armed, he beat one of the 2 guys up with his pistol, and that was enough to scare the rest away. Attacking a gambling spot like that and successfully beating up armed men was no joke, so the underboss of the Gambino family decided to sit down at a gas station in New Jersey. Now, if you think of it, a gas station is one of the worst places for mafia members to meet at. every single thing owned by them is explosive by nature, and having stuff like those near petroleum products like petrol, fuel, etc. can cause a giant explosion. It means if a single thing goes wrong, a bomb blast is a very likely and deadly thing to happen. One mistake can cause hundreds of deaths. But the mafia meeting between the Rudash organization and the representatives of the Gambino family went well, despite the odds being extremely against it. Alex went with only 6 men, while the Gambino Mafia members had 20 men in the gas station, fully armed. Still, everything went okay. In 2006, every single person sitting inside that gas station was in jail, arrested, except for Dobroshi, the underboss of the Gambino family. He's currently hiding in Kosovo, while his family is beyond anyone's reach in Prague. After a trial, Rudash and his accomplices were all found guilty. According to Fred Snelling, head of the FBI's criminal division in New York, quote, "It almost felt like arresting a 6th family after the 5 mafia organizations, Bonanno, Colombo, Gambino, Genovese, and Lucci's cartels." And guess what? The Albanian Mafia had roots in South American politics as well. In exchange for some favors, the South American politicians were found guilty of moving their assets that were not revealed to the public or the government to secret bank accounts. Alright folks, that was all for today's video. Today we talked about the Albanian Mafia, how was their life, and talked about some big names that did major and irreversible damage to the United States. If you like the video, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. We will be back soon with another video. Until then, take care.